All right, we're live on YouTube. Let's bring in a couple Facebook groups this time. We haven't hit Scott Kennedy Sports in a while. Let's see if we can liven that up just a bit. So we talk about Falcons and Seahawks and coaches and all that kind of stuff this morning on a cold, brisk December 3rd. All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. My name is Scott Kennedy. This guy over here is Nick Kendall. That dude back there, that's Summit. He's snoozing out. And if you could look over here, I've got a black cat and a heated bed. I bought my cat a heated bed, and it's like ether. He gets in and he stretches out. I was like, oh, looks like the Falcons sometimes.
Sleepy.
We are going to talk several things. We got the Seattle Seahawks coming up, and I've labeled this. I don't know how much we'll talk, the actual game, because at this point, when you're 4-8, is the game what matters, or is it moving forward what matters? But what I do want to do is take a look at some of the comparisons between the teams. They're both second-year coaches heading in wildly opposite directions. And someone put in the comments, I'm not listening to anything if you don't put coaching changes in the title. I'm like, well, okay, well, thanks for the comment anyway. We're going to take a look at some of the top coaching candidates, head coach candidates in this upcoming cycle. It's an interesting conversation whether the Falcons are actively looking for a head coach or not. Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. We had our first big snowfall out here, so I have a bunch of snow, and it was a really sticky one. It's really sticking to the branches, so it's pretty. I'm not excited about going out and cleaning off the car whenever that comes, because Seattle and the Pacific Northwest made me extremely soft these last 5 years. Like, I have very minimal temperature range that I can handle, like the darkness and the dampness, which we get for 5 months straight. I'm built for that now, but like the cold, not as much. But we'll get there. It's okay. And doing pretty well. Excited to talk some Falcons. I miss you guys on Monday mornings, but the new job has got me running around like crazy. So I'm happy to be here and stretch out my legs and hang out with my Falcons friends as well.
Well, my year in New Jersey when it snowed, I'm like, my car can handle this. I've got an all-wheel drive with some, snow-ish tires all seasons on them. It can handle this. What do I have to blow my driveway for? I just went right over it. Yeah, that turns your driveway into an ice skating rink. It just packs it down, and it's there for, the next 12 months. So, yeah, I did like the snow. There's a joke I've used. I don't like the winters in the South, because it's 40 degrees and rain a lot. And I rode a motorcycle exclusively for a couple of years, and that's the worst weather in the world, is cold and wet. I'm like, man, I'd just rather it snow. So I live up in New Jersey for 2 winters. It starts snowing. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is fun. And it snowed a ton. It snowed until like every week until like April. And I was like, listen, I like the snow. It's fine. Then late April and May hits, and that's when the 40 degrees and rain hit. And I'm like, oh, your spring sucks. You don't miss it. You just move it down the calendar some. So what they call the spring up in the Northeast is what, we call winter. Their spring is awful. So June and July were nice, though. But on that note, we do want to say hello to some folks. Austin Freeze is in. He says, watch the Falcons squeak out the win. Seattle's a good team, and the Falcons play well against good teams. Really depends on if Raheem has the locker room still mathematically in the playoff hunt. Yeah, because is it 2 games behind now? Mm-hmm. Everybody's just kind of eking around 500 in the NFC South. But, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, Nick, if I was a good team, I wouldn't want to play the Falcons. If I was a bad team, I would. I've moved off on that a little bit just with some of the injuries. If Drake London's not 100%, this team's not really capable of beating a good team. I mean, every week, I know. But it's a different team out there when you're running out there with, and I don't even say Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is fully capable of engineering a win. But when he's throwing the ball to Darnell Mooney, David Sills, Kyle Pitts, Charlie Warner, Devin Tompkins, Dylan Drummond, you've got problems against a good team.
Yeah, it's not a very good roster right now, and that's manifesting itself in the injuries. And you do have superstars, and you've hit on a lot of those, upper picks, but the belly of the draft has been hit or miss so far, and just the volume of those picks in that area. And it's kind of that New Orleans Saints model. We got to go get them. Let's spend 2 picks, 2 lottery rolls for one. And you can do that every once in a while, but the level that the Falcons have done it has been problematic. And also when you handcuff yourself with a massive quarterback contract like you did with Kirk Cousins, it's the depth of the roster is showing right now. So it is unfortunate, but we'll see how they compete against Seattle, who's probably, I mean, they have an argument for the best team in football this season. I think there's 3 teams right now. Vegas agrees. The statistics agree. 3 teams in football that are like, I think a step above everybody. And it's the Rams, the Seahawks, and I'll throw in the Packers. I don't know. A lot of people will probably not because they've had some ugly primetime games, but when they're clicking, they are as good as anybody right now. And they have superstars on that team.
They'll have to play prime time if they make the playoffs, though.
That's true. And they well, they didn't play prime time.
I know. I just mean like a national game. It might be in the afternoon.
Yeah, but they looked unbelievable in Detroit. Like when Jordan Love's on, he's a top 5 quarterback.
And then they've got a guy who can win a game by himself on the defensive side of the ball, which is a big difference. That's when you make a move like that.
Yep.
Want to say hello to our dear member. Thank you for being a member and for the support, Curtis. Says, morning, Scott and Nick and Falcons Nation. That's all, y'all. So Curtis says, good morning to you, too. He says, this is for the lights. Thank you. Forehead shining a little bit. I got the bangs moved off my head yesterday, so the forehead is out in its glory. Not much to say. I feel you on that one, Curtis. We always have something to say. That's why we're here. Someone came in the comments yesterday after Garrett. Are we still talking about this team? I'm like, yes. Why are you here commenting on a podcast? Yes. Who cares? Well, you do. You care enough to comment. Thank you on that. So not much to say, Curtis. I get it. We you can sit back and listen and see if we have anything to say. And just looking at the numbers, Nick, it just 1998 will bother me to my grave. And it's not because the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl. No, that's fine. It's like, that's not a Broncos thing. It's like, I'm not mad at the Patriots for that other game. This is a Falcons thing. It's not a Patriots thing. It wasn't a Broncos thing. It was one team that collapses and one team that didn't even come out to play. I was listening to, producing the Mile High Huddle podcast, and they were talking about 98, and how it was, workmanlike, and we're going to go out and just take care of business against this inferior team. And they did. And that bothers me because that's the perception. That Falcons team was so good. And the perception of them that history is going to go down is that they were a joke. I mean, this team was 14-2, same record as the Broncos going to the playoffs, and, dominated some really good teams. The 49ers, I think, were 10-6, 11-5 that year, beat the hell out of the 49ers a couple times. Dolphins were a playoff team, 38-17 to close out the season. I mean, that team was good. Top 5 offense, top 5 defense, journeyman quarterback, come good. You know who that sounds like right now? The Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are in that level. They've got a journeyman quarterback that is playing really well. It's Sam Darnold. He had a good season with the Vikings last year, but, I think it's fair to call him a journeyman.
This is team number 4.
Yeah, he's making some good money, but it's still half of what the Falcons paid Kirk Cousins. So relatively speaking, he's still a bargain in the 20 millions. He's still a bargain. And they're number 3 in offense and number 3 in defense right now. This is a good football team in their second year. Now, they didn't hit the lows that the Atlanta Falcons did as far as, being a 7-10 team. They were habitually around 9-8, 10-7 when they've made this switch. So they've been better for a while. They're a better organization for the last 10 years. But they've got a second year head coach. They've had some change at the quarterback position, and now they're one of the best teams in the NFL.
They've drafted well. They've had a good vision, and McDonald's one of the best gamers as far as scheme goes in the entire NFL in terms of generating matchups along the line of scrimmage. Now, they have invested quite heavily in their line of scrimmage as well, and just the defensive side of the ball. But it can turn around pretty quickly when you roll multiple 6s in a row, if you will. So, yeah, they're a good team. I think FTN, formerly Football Outsiders, DVOA has them as the number 1 team in all of football so far this season. I mean, they're Their most recent loss, Scott, was a game where they lost by 1 possession to the Rams on the road. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions, and they were still like close in that game. So I know everybody was counting the Rams after that. I'm like, I know Darnold will do Darnold things sometimes, but like a 4 interception game is an outlier, and they were right there. So they're as good as anybody.
He doesn't do that in the playoffs. That's the fear with Darnold. Oh no, it's Sam Darnold again.
The one thing I will get into though about this Seahawks team is that if they have any weakness on their offense or on their team in general, they aren't really a very good down your throat run game. They do not have the offensive line that can displace people at the point of attack. Now, that hasn't stopped Clinton Kubiak and that offensive passing attack to get under center, get into heavy personnel, and dial up shots. I mean, they are attacking vertically, probably more than anybody not named Drake May and the Patriots right now. A lot of thanks to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's probably Offensive Player of the Year right now, over Jonathan Taylor, who's dipped a bit here as of late. But they're great, but they struggle to run the ball. And as we've talked about the Falcons a lot, Scott, that's their weakness on defense, is the ability to get those run stuffs, those tackle for loss, and leak yardage in general. You're light up front. So that is something that, with Darnold being how Darnold can be sometimes, I think the defense on the Falcons can do enough to keep this a game. I really do. I don't know if the offense can do enough to punch back with how they're built right now. But I mean, Darnold's got that bozo gene in him, as they like to say. So he could have a 2 or 3 interception game in, and if you can't lean on the run game, it could be closer than you think. Now, I'm not betting on the Falcons or anything like that. Like, Seattle's really, really talented, but their weakness as a team is the area you really want to pick at and attack this Falcons defense.
Yeah, and the bozo gene, unfortunately, that's not necessarily a big hit. We're not picking at Seattle. I've just got done praising the Seattle Seahawks and everything they've done, but Darnold's had his warts through the years. I mean, that's just a fact. He had his worst game, unfortunately.
Like, there's good quarterbacks who have bozo gene. Like, sometimes you just you lost your mind. What were you thinking there? Did you watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall ever back in the day? It's like, you're doing too much. Get back down. Like, that's the quarterback.
You got to do something.
Yeah. That's you got to do more than that.
I referred to Jay Cutler as the dumbest smart guy I ever scouted.
Yeah.
It was just sometimes, but playing within that. And you mentioned I wanted to see is because I was looking at their individual stats. I'm like, well, their individual rushing, looks pretty good. Ken Walker's got 750 yards and Zach Charbonnet's got 400 and stuff. They've outgained their opponents 1,400 to 1,000 in the rushing game this year. So they're winning there. But their rushing offense, yards per game. Let's see if I do yards per game. Where the hell are the Seahawks? I have to control F them because their mid-pack is where they show up in yards per game. They're at 116. The Falcons are at 123, which is a 7-8 yards. It's a 10-spot difference. That's how small the margins are in this. Do want to say hello to some more folks out there. And then we'll come back to Kubiak as well. Talking about there's a conversation of, we should win this one because we're not supposed to. I saw, excuse me, Mark Raimondi talking about the Falcons are 1-6 in games they were favored this year. I questioned that a little bit. The only game they've won that they were favored, because they were underdogs on the road to the Saints. I can't remember a game that they won that actually they were favored. I'm sure there was one. I'll look it up. I don't think they've been favored in 7 games, though.
Washington Commanders with Mariota coming to town.
Were they favored that game? That might be it.
I think
so. they might have been too, but I don't remember them being favored in 7 games. I was looking at it. I was like, okay, this one was close because I don't think they were favored against the Buccaneers at home. I think that was 1.5 to the Bucs. But either way, we've talked about this before. When they're supposed to win, they don't. And that's a problem. That's a problem. You're 4-8 because you're not going to get picked in. But this is a long-standing thing. There's a few universal truths among fans. The media hates us. The announcers are biased, and the refs are screwing us.
Always.
I don't listen to that from any fans because you all say the same thing.
And it's never the quarterback's fault.
Every fan, no matter what podcast, what group of fans, they all believe that. I'm like, they can't hate all of you. They just can't. Except everybody agrees that the Kansas City Chiefs get favorable treatment. That's the one thing everybody agrees on. So where was I going with this? on the universal truths. Penalties were good. The media, that's what it was. The stat that kind of blows my mind is, Vegas hates us. What do they know anyway? The over-under in wins, the Falcons have only hit the over once in the last 8 years. So, the media hates us. Vegas hates us. What do they know? They're always predicts us to lose anyway. No, they're not. They haven't hit it. And right now, I think it was 6.5 going into this year. You want to bet on 7 wins right now? I did. I took the over again because, I underestimate coaching. I go and say how Sean Payton is worth a first-round draft pick, and then I totally ignore Raheem Morris and his coaching staff, rookie coaching staff coming in. Totally blow it off. I'll just assume that these guys know what they're doing. Well, that's a really bad assumption.
Yeah, I mean, it's been frustrating. Yeah, we do tend to. I think that should be definitely used as an indictment on this coaching staff that not only they were set up for failure, blah, 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 or whatever. It's like not according to the Vegas line consistent, like one season, one off, teams surprise. Some guys don't land, but if it's as consistent as we've seen, there's major problems going on and major problems. And it's not like you guys play in the NFC West, right? Like you have 6 games a year against lesser opponents than every other conference out there the last few years. Now, Tampa Bay has been, hit or miss, but they haven't been a top 6 team in the league. They've been right there around 8 to 12, and that's good enough for the South as it's been constructed the last half decade. But you guys, it's frustrating because it's really hard to build a program with consistent instability, but there's also the sunk cost fallacy, right? If it's not working, you shouldn't wait around to see if it does work. You need to get the right people and direction because time's a wasting as well. So it's not a good spot to be. You do have some players in place. And there's always examples every year of teams turning around rather quickly. This isn't the NCAA where you're kind of a little bit more entrenched, unless you're Kurt Cignetti at Indiana, which I still don't understand what's going on there. But that's you have a chance to turn it around pretty quickly in the league. Yeah. So why not the Falcons? Maybe this next one is the one that gets it right.
And Sam's remind us, he says, both Sam Darnold and Seattle both torched us last year. Yeah, that was a lay down game as things were going down in Minnesota. And Sam Darnold had a big game, but Seattle, the Falcons were playing pretty good football. That was when the Falcons started 6-3. That Seattle game was one of the 3. That was Seattle came in and just stole our lunch money. And that one was one where I really started seeing chinks in Jimmy Lake at the time because they got out there, they still weren't sacking anybody. They were on a historically low sack rate. It was like 11 in 10 games. They were on pace for like 15 sacks. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, but they're 6-3. I'm like, yeah, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's like, we had our highest pressure rate in this game against the Seahawks. Like, you didn't pressure Geno. Geno sat back and waited as long as he could. And then when he saw pressure, he delivered the ball, picked them apart. That was kind of the blueprint for the rest of the season then. Just take what they give you because they're going to give you the entire middle of the field underneath. They're going to give you intermediate routes all game long. So that was really when it started showing some of the chinks, and because they were 6-3 playing some pretty good ball, and Seattle dominated.
Yeah,
dominated that game.
Yeah,
and Rusty's not buying on this. He says, cash out and refi all the equity in your house and put it on Seattle this weekend, boys. And when I put money down, weird things happen. The only time I ever bet on when my own team is involved these days is to buy insurance. I should have put $1,000 on the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I should have. It would have been worth it. I would have happily blown $1,000 in January of 2017 to not have to deal with that for the rest of my life. And if I won, at least I get $1,000 out of it. I should have put $1,000 on the damn Patriots. Or they've got those in-game apps at the score in the second half.
The 28-3
now give
line.
me $1,000 on the Patriots.
Yeah, you'd have made some crazy money on that. God, you wouldn't be here right now. You'd just be here for the love of the game. No, yeah, Rusty, I don't think you probably get good payout on the Seattle game, but I'm not much of a gambler as well. So I'll do the fantasy football betting and put it in a bracket, but that's about it. Unless somebody offers me a deal that's, too good to be true. I'm like, wait a second. The odds say like I have 5 times more likely winning this one. But other than that,
Nick, Seattle's a 7-point road dog.
Favorite.
The biggest,
I think you
biggest spread in the NFL is 8.5. Well, I'm working my way down. The Buccaneers are 8.5 home favorites over the Saints. Okay. The Broncos are 7.5-point road dogs over the 2-10 Raiders. Okay. The Rams are 7.5 road over the Cardinals. And then the fourth highest line in football right now is the Seahawks over the Falcons.
Yeah. I think you maybe misspoke. A road dog would be not favored. So they're road favorites.
A road dog. Yeah, I probably did misspoke. They're road favorites. So they're home dogs.
Yes.
Apologies.
Yeah,
yes, thank you. You're right.
So the Falcons and the Raiders are 7.5-point road or home dogs.
Home dogs. Yeah. That's
speaking of home dogs. How are we doing?
There's the home dog right there. Calder, he says, word for the day, apathy. Brother, I feel it. When I say when I'm over here begging for memberships, please sign up. 90% of what we do that I do for a living is advertising driven. The more views I get, the more we get paid. Dude, the Falcons fans have checked out. This is the lowest viewership on a podcast I can remember having right now. We have less than 100 people watching. It's the lowest one I can remember in a long time. And the analytics on my website, we wrote 8 stories yesterday on the Falcons. Pretty good stories. It's tough. What do I always say? What's worse than anger? Apathy. Apathy is death for a team. When you're mad, you at least still care. I don't even care anymore. I'm going to go do something else. And when you go start doing something else, you realize how easy it is to do something else. You do not want, this is the worst of the bunch. So Calder, and please be a member. sign up become a member for the Falcons podcast. It certainly supports the show in a big way.
The big thing I will say, the positive about the apathy, if you live in the Atlanta area, tickets are going to be cheap. If you haven't been out to a game yet, the secondhand market, you're going to be able to get a pretty good ticket, I would imagine, for a pretty good price.
That's the other thing I check. I check every week just to see supply and demand, because it also gives me an idea of hey, where should my site be ranking among other 32 sites on the On-Site network? Or how are we doing? What's fan interest look like? $34 tickets as low as $34. Which insane. Is the second lowest in the NFL. Actually, Rams at Cardinals has gone down to 24. And then the lowest one, it won't surprise you, Titans, and it's a huge stadium too. Titans at Browns.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is why we love relegation. This is why we love relegation in soccer. The loser gets kicked out of the league. That makes for an exciting game.
Yeah, that sounds like we got a Maction game going on up there in Ohio. They've got Bowling Green versus Middle Tennessee State. And they're like,
tickets as low as $8.
Oh my God.
It's as low as $8 you can buy them to go watch. I'm sure the weather is going to be awful on the lake in December. And the Browns fans are awesome. And the Titans are just, they're dreadful. They're
heard the joke
right now.
I had 2 Browns tickets and didn't want to go to the game, so I put them on the dashboard of my car and left the car unlocked and went on a walk. And an hour later, I came back. I had 4 tickets. Yeah,
you're talking to Atlanta sports fans. Those are old jokes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Call in the radio show, win the trivia. First place is 2 Atlanta Falcons tickets. Second place, 4 Atlanta Falcons tickets. Third place, yeah, those are old.
Classic.
Old jokes. Larry, good to see you. Says, Scott, what it do? And yes, Mad Scientist says Scott got a haircut. We're gonna win. I don't know how long y'all go without haircuts, but I looked mine up because it was really long. It's as long as it's been a long time. 4 months. It had been 4 months. 4 months since I'd last had a haircut.
I can't do that.
I go until I can't take it anymore. And it actually went through it. I'm like, I'm kind of starting to dig the little waves kicking out and stuff. Problem is I got a bald spot up here, and the long hair with the rough patch does not work for me. I'm not doing that. So Michael Ronquillo out there in Arizona, hope you're doing well. Welcome in. Let's see. And Larry says I've seen people say this until Arthur Blank comes out to speak. I don't have it. That's what people want to say. And I saw someone said it's almost disrespectful for Arthur. What's Arthur Blank supposed to say right now, other than if he's not coming out and saying an endorsement would be hollow. They call that the kiss of death. The what's the phrase for it? The word of encouragement. What's the phrase for it?
I know what you're talking about.
They back you. A public endorsement. I forgot the phrase for it. But that's also the kiss of death. Yeah. And you've gone this far. Fire them. I said it, and then making them face the music every week at their press conferences. I think it was Mr. Field General on Instagram. Started following him. I referenced one of his videos earlier. He's really funny. Since I want he uses some colorful language, guys. I want them to suffer. I want them to coach the rest of this season and face the music. And I responded back. I was like, it's a good thing it's a friendly media group, because there's very, very little hostility for the job that they're doing out there. And they get away with being snarky and snippy and that kind of stuff without being called out. You put those guys out in front of New York media, it'd be pretty ugly for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No doubt about that. The vote of confidence. Everybody's coming in saying the dreaded vote of confidence. Yeah, thanks, guys. I was blanking too. I didn't have enough coffee. Not yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Good
That's
job.
the one. Yes, the dreaded vote of confidence. I came up with about 4 different ways to say that and never got that one. So Sam and Chris, thank you very much. Jimmy says he sold his ticket for $25. No, and I said it's gonna be this lower bowl down here. If you're not playing well, and if you're not playing one of the blue blood franchises, and no offense to Seattle, but they're kind of like new money. They're West Coast, really the only West Coast blue blood team. And when I mean West Coast, I don't mean Denver. Denver is one of those teams, but it's the 49ers. The Rams have moved around a lot, and it's not Arizona. Seattle, they're not 100 years of Green Bay Packers, of Chicago Bears, of New York Football Giants, of Pittsburgh Steelers, of all these Midwesterners that have moved down here like my parents did.
Yeah.
This bowl for this game is going to be empty. Empty on Sunday. It'll be sold out, but it'll be empty. The lower bowl will be empty.
Yeah, it'll feel weird. Yeah, not a good time, but it's going to be worth it. The Falcons will turn around at some point. I'm pretty positive. We got Og coming in with a beautiful mountain landscape picture. Always got to give a shout out there. He says, if the Seahawks beat the brakes off the Falcons at home, Blank will be forced to make changes. I think changes are coming at this point regardless. But as you mentioned, Scott, I don't know how much, the reactionary fire somebody now symbolic matters that much. You're just making the job harder on the other people there, maybe hurting some of the players as well in the process. I think it's probably too late to get that, interim coach bump. Like, what does that really even matter at this point? So you're probably writing it out. God, man, I just can't imagine bringing back the decision makers for this team at this point. Typically like to see guys get 3 years, but this is pretty dreadful right now. And it's not like you've been hampered with like an incredible amount of injuries. Like Penix, it's not like you lost Mahomes, right? Like Penix was playing up and down, and this just is not, it's not a good program right now.
Yeah. And, I talked a little bit about on Monday, the snark, and I gave Raheem a little bit of benefit of the doubt for, snapping back. I'm like, oh, you really want to fire somebody right now, don't you? That I'm like, well, yeah. He's not going to fire somebody in a press conference 15 minutes after a game, and he's not going to publicly say that he's going to anyway. Could have handled the question better. Doubled down on Monday, and we're talking about Marquise Williams, a special teams coordinator, who I have publicly and will continue to publicly say something is just weird with that. Wrote the story up after, I think it was Joe Patrick asked the question, how come Ike Hilliard gets fired? And he answered it. He asked it nicer than this, but how come Ike Hilliard gets fired and Marquise Williams still has a job? Well, we think that Marquise does a better job of communicating to the players. In other words, Ike Hilliard was pissed, let it known that he was pissed to undermine the coach, and was fired. But at what point do results matter? Because I guess there's no point in firing Marquise if you're out the door too. It's like, I'm not going to fire you. We're just going to fire. We'll just leave together at the end of the year. Because if he was in the mode of trying to save his job, he would have made a change already. That's one of the indicators to me, y'all. Either he can't fire him because there's something else going on there that we don't know about, because he should have been fired already. Should have been fired this offseason with Jimmy Lake and the defensive line coach. Marquise Williams should have been gone too. He wasn't. Got the worst unit in the NFL. That's not hyperbole. The Atlanta Falcons special teams are the worst special teams unit in the NFL. They were bad last year. They're worse this year. Something's going on there. So if I'm looking for an indicator of what makes you think that, other than the record, what makes you think that they're going to have the stones to fire Raheem Morris after 2 years, that he'll go out and do it? Like, because if he was trying to save his job, Marquise Williams would have been gone. I think they're just going to all go together.
Mm-hmm. Yep, dead man walking, as they say. Maybe your season can be saved, though. I did see Desmond Ridder was released by the Vikings. So if you guys want to get that jolt in the arm.
Poor guy. He made the practice squad for a week.
And you saw what Max Brosmer looked like versus Seattle. So, man, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ridder looked okay in an Arthur Smith offense where remember, all we kept saying was just don't lose it. There's enough talent. Don't lose the game. Don't lose the game. Don't lose the game. What would he do? He'd lose the game.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I tried to make the quarterback-proof offense, but at some point in the NFL, push comes to shove, you're going to have to be a drop-back passer. We got Calder coming in, out there lifting weights and being a member, so
Calder does not skip leg day either.
No, God bless. So, yeah, good on you.
Yep. Be like Calder. Thank you for being a member, my friend. It's like I said, it certainly supports it when we need the diehards. We need the ride or die diehards when toughs get going to keep us going, because a lot of the I'm not going to say casuals. That's got a negative connotation to it, but they normal fans, not crazy people like us, they kind of check out. So thank you so much for that. Want to say there's something else in here. We still haven't heard why Ray was let go. There was Ray, I think, stuck up for Ike Hilliard and was part of a voice that was differing than what Raheem Morris wanted to hear. And they may not have done it the right way. That's reading between the lines. There was some dissension going on, which, right or wrong, if you're being undermined, you've got to make that change. You do. I mean, or, you try, if it's reached a point where you cannot work together. I mean, I don't want a bunch of yes men. I want to be challenged. Nick's done it 3 times on here. Hey, you're wrong about that. Yes, you're right. I was wrong. Thank you.
You want to get it right. It's a problem sometimes.
Yeah,
you don't need to correct everybody.
Yeah, you need that. I hate being wrong. And if I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong. Don't let me keep being wrong. Tell me. But I think that had something to do with it. And as Jimmy says, imagine we finished worse than we did with legendary Ridder and Mariota. Well, it was 7-10 then, but in 23 they had a better team and finished 7-10 with Ridder and Taylor Heineke as they shuffled quarterbacks in. They benched Ridder twice, so he was a 3-time starter. Ridder was in that 23 season. Just because I talk about it here a lot. I mentioned this. I put it on the artwork for here, the thumbnail. I call it Last Chance. Why is it a last chance? Because one more loss and it's mathematically impossible to have a winning season. So it's still possible to have a winning season at 9-8 and save their jobs. Still mathematically possible, however improbable it might be. Now, how quickly can things get turned around? We went through that on Monday. I mentioned a bunch of second year coaches, even first year coaches. Ben Johnson's a first year guy in a situation very similar to what the Bears and Falcons have looked like mirror images for the last 5 years. They got the right staff in, and they're 9-3 now.
It doesn't hurt to have Caleb Williams, the trade that they made to set themselves up either. But no, yeah, they're 9-3, and they look like they could be for real. I know they were like one of the worst point differential 8-3 teams in NFL history, but Yeah, you are what your
Wouldn't it
record
be fun to
says
be
you are.
9-3 and talk about are we really any good or not, rather than 4-8 and know that we're not?
Yeah.
I'll take that. It's like, I don't want Mike McCarthy. He couldn't get the Cowboys over the hump. We can't even get to the hump in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Let's get to the hump and slide back down. I'll take that. You gotta walk before you crawl before you walk, something like that. But I do want to talk about some potential coaching candidates that the Falcons, not even the Falcons, yes, the Falcons could be looking at if they decide to make a change, and one of them is going to be here. Clint Kubiak is the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, and he has their team in the top number 1 in points, I think, pretty close. But as one of the top offenses in the NFL with Sam Darnold, a talented but flawed quarterback, for a defensive head coach, Kubiak has bounced around a little bit, but he's young, and coaches do that. It's a tough life on a family until you make it and get enough money you don't have to worry about it anymore. But he's 38 years old and is having a phenomenal season with Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's probably going to be a head coach next year, Nick. What about you?
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, we'll see how it plays down the stretch here. But you go over the names. It's not a very good crop of resumes right now for the head coaching candidates coming up this season. And it's especially not good for teams that are looking for offensive-minded head coaches, offensive coordinators, because we've kind of reached the point in the league where a lot of those guys have been hired and are calling their own offenses for the most part. So you don't have as many CEO types running these teams with absolutely electric top offenses. So, he's definitely somebody who could get hired. He has that new car smell as well, right? We haven't seen him fail, so the possibilities are endless, unlike somebody like Mike McCarthy or Jim Nagy, right, who are offensive-minded still but have had failures in the league. But, he's definitely somebody that I would imagine gets hired this cycle. He's not my number one, but I don't think he's always the most creative with his run designs, but he has the pedigree. He's been around the league too, so he's got connections. Hopefully he can bring in a good staff around him. That's the unspoken biggest thing about a good coach is it's not like, you can be a good coach, but are you surrounding yourself with a good staff is probably as important as anything, honestly.
Right.
So we'll see. But I definitely think he's going to get hired this cycle.
I think so too. And I like I like what he's done without the Superman quarterback. No offense to Sam Darnold and Seattle Seahawks fans, but Sam Darnold isn't MVP type. He's not Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers. I don't really care who Aaron Rodgers' coach was when he was 33 years old. Aaron Rodgers was one of the best quarterbacks to ever walk the planet.
Yeah.
You're going to look good as a play caller if Aaron Rodgers in his prime is your coach. Sam Darnold's not that guy. Geno Smith wasn't that guy. If you're having success with those guys, you've got people willing to execute a plan and a system, and your system is good. The Falcons system from the top down is broken. They've got to fix the infrastructure before I worry about Michael Penix or Kirk Cousins. I don't care. Is Kirk Cousins going to? Is Michael Penix going to come back healthy? Right now, does it matter? To a certain extent, you got to get that part fixed first. And Rusty's talking about past quarterbacks. And I've got, this is a great question, and I think it could turn into a good conversation for y'all. He says, explain to me why Arthur Smith was willing to die on the mediocre quarterback hill. He never actually tried to pursue any halfway decent options. It's baffling, to be honest. This is a great question. And so first year's 2021. If you're going to go in the draft, they decided to go position player instead of Justin Fields. Justin Fields was probably the next guy. Whether or not Kyle Pitts was the right guy at 4, he wasn't. Justin Fields probably wasn't the right guy at number 4 either. Mm-hmm. So that was your best option. And then it was either Mac Jones. Am I going to use a number 4 on Mac Jones? So those were your options there. So you rode with Matt Ryan. That offseason, they did pursue a high-profile quarterback. His name was Deshaun Watson. But they were already dead broke in salary cap. They would have figured something out, stripped the team down to nothing. And then we already know what a disaster that was going to be. The Lamar Jackson thing was never a thing. And Arthur Blank needs to just shut his mouth. coming out there and say, well, it would the cost prohibitive, blah, blah, blah. No, he wasn't leaving Baltimore. And it wasn't, I'm not going to do your contract negotiating for you just so I can end up empty-handed anyway. That wasn't going to happen. Now, you missed on Deshaun Watson, which was a blessing in disguise. The 2022 quarterback class where you ended up drafting Ritter, I think Ritter was the second quarterback taken in that class, may go down in history, if not for Brock Purdy, as the worst quarterback class in the history of the draft. Mm-hmm. Kenny Pickett was number 1. Desmond Ritter was number 2. You get to 2023, that's where you should have spent a little more money on a better backup quarterback. But they didn't. They handed the reins to Ritter. Bryden Heineke, you will be the backup. That was a mistake. Now, Nick, I don't know who else was out there at the time. I don't remember. But there's always the Jacoby Brissetts, the Geno Smiths, Sam Darnolds of the world. There's better options out there than Taylor Heineke, who wasn't a bad quarterback in Washington, to be fair. After the first guys went, when you were drafting, the next quarterback was Will Levis. He didn't go till 33. So the quarterbacks that were available to Arthur Smith, it wasn't a great situation to have. And Matt Ryan wouldn't have been the answer either if he'd hung on and you didn't ostracize him and have him request a trade because of your very public pursuit of Deshaun Watson. Matt was done at that time too.
Yeah.
That's my answer for Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I mean, hard to win when you don't have the quarterback at the end of the day. And, you are still, the buck stops here. So you are responsible for the product on the field, and shoulda, coulda, woulda, it's figure it out. And it's, again, if we talk about it, it's a sunk cost fallacy. Got to know when the clock's always ticking. The grains of sand are falling down. So if you are like, oh, we got to give this guy time, well, you're giving yourself less time, wasting time potentially on the wrong guy. So it's definitely frustrating. And
I'm looking at 2023, Nick. It's top free agents that year. I didn't get anybody in the top 10 that was a quarterback. I'm down to 15 quarterback.
Daniel Jones was out there. Geno Smith was out there.
Daniel Jones never hit free agency, though.
He didn't hit free agency. I was looking at a list. You had Derek Carr.
Jimmy Garoppolo was the number 1 ranked free agent quarterback. At number 23 was Jimmy G. Should you have brought in Jimmy G over Taylor Heineke? Probably. He wouldn't have broken the bank. He spent a couple $100 million in free agency that year and did a good job doing it. Anointing him the starter was a problem. Jacoby Brissett, I mentioned him. He was 40. He was ranked number 40, so he was the number 2. So Jimmy G was a guy I probably forgot about that was available, and people probably would have lost their minds if you signed Jimmy G. There's Calais Campbell all the way down at 53 and David Onyemata at 56. Those were underrated. Teddy Bridgewater at 60. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater was your 3rd highest ranked free agent quarterback on that, and the draft options were bad. They were bad. So it was a great question, Rusty. Thank you for the support. And they should have been more. He didn't need to be anointed the starter. It should have been an open competition, and they should have done a little bit more to bring in more competition for Ritter. But they did try and go after Deshaun Watson, and then they passed on the only guy I can think of in that span that they passed on at the time was probably Justin Fields.
Yeah. I mean, there was that year where the Kirk Cousins year, you could have gone a little bit more short term. I think.
Yeah, but that wasn't Arthur Smith. So that was the question.
Yeah.
It was a question about Arthur Smith in 3 years. Why do you bet a promising 2023 season on Desmond Ritter? That was a bet. That was a bad bet.
Yeah.
You needed to hedge your options more carefully there. So I agree. But the options weren't great. They weren't great. And again, if Matt Ryan wasn't the difference either. Matt Ryan was 2020. He was out of football in 2023. In 2022 he was with the Colts, and 2023 he was out of football
in a booth somewhere.
Yeah. So that wasn't necessarily the answer either of having him around for another season. especially on the contract. It was better off just eating that contract in 2022 and building a team around him despite the hole at quarterback. Great question. Keith Robbins, thank you for being a member, Keith, and the super chat. He says, next year is going to be worse than this year, in my opinion. It's hard to say. I mean, I tagged Eric Edholm of NFL Network on this because you can read his stuff doing his power rankings. He does the power rankings for NFL.com. And he was in. After the Falcons beat the Bills, he's excited. He's like, look at the talent on this team. The defense, they're getting after the quarterback. They fixed their biggest problem. They're 3-2. They're heading in the right direction. And then fast forward to yesterday, and it was like, what the F has happened to this team? And I put it out there that the Falcons have, they've perfected the art of winning the majority of statistical categories only to lose the game. And Edholm picked up on that too. And he says it could be not my story. He has just picked up on the same trend that they're winning rushing, passing, defense, sacks, penalties, turnovers most of the time, at least pushing even time of possession, winning all that and then losing close games because they're so bad on third down and their special teams are so bad, which indicates it could be a quicker turnaround than people might think. This team is closer to being 8-4 than it looks based on their record because they find creative and interesting ways to lose that are fixable. Nick, a lot of the places where they're losing, it's fixable. Better clock management, better special teams, make a kick coverage. That's fixable. That's not the end all be all. Now, what happens at quarterback next year, Nick? There's the question.
Yeah. And the offensive line getting older and everything like that too. But yeah, it's a lot of it comes back to coaching. And I know you don't want to give that top pick to the Rams, but I think maybe the worst thing for this team to do is to go, the season's done, not making the playoffs, but to go on a run here and be like, oh man, that hope, look at us. Maybe Raheem Morris gets another season. I don't know if I can buy that. I think you need a program change here. So we'll see. And I know that a lot of the, maybe it's just outspoken minority, but a lot of the fans want the offensive minded coach. But for me, the one who I think is from the crop that's currently available, we'll see who's available. Because there could be some good coaches that are fired or potentially on the trade block. But right now, my guy I think would be Robert Saleh, just because I've been so impressed with him keeping that unit together for the 49ers, because they have been decimated with injuries, Scott. I mean, you lose 2 all-pro players in Bosa, as well as, of course, Fred Warner, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer and one of the best 5 linebackers of my lifetime, I think. And that defense is still playing tough, good football, taking the ball away. They also lost Michael Williams, who was a big part of their early down run defense. So I think Saleh is somebody who, and we've also seen what the Jets have turned into this season. Like, he had a pretty competent program out there for the most part, despite, ownership making decisions based off Madden ratings, if you recall that story. Unbelievable. But then you had the Aaron Rodgers circus that you had to deal with, the Zach Wilson trade as well, that, again, not exactly his choice at the end of the day. And that defense was playing really good football for the most part. I also think you get the added bonus of maybe some defensive continuity. Maybe you keep Ulbrich, who's not been a world beater, but again, so much turnover, keeping some identity the same, some of those relationships, I think is a positive for me for Saleh as well. I would assume that that'd be an option. But yeah, it's still oh man, what does that mean about Penix and the offense at the end of the day? Brother, I know that's the big question, but first we need to get competency and everybody pull in the same direction from an organizational perspective before we can even get there, I think. So right now, my number one choice is Saleh. I'll be curious to see what happens with Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski as well. Another name is the offensive guy who's, talk about a terrible program out there in Cleveland where not much of a chance. Those guys would be interesting for me as well. But yeah, those are the ones that stick out for me. And we got Michael Rojas saying Saleh took 2 shots at quarterback and got it wrong both times. I don't think Saleh was calling the shots with those first-round quarterbacks. I think based on what we've heard about Woody Johnson and his son, especially quarterbacks first round are typically ownership decisions as much as anything. But I think I think Saleh is a good choice. But you'd vet that, of course, in the interview process. So thank you, Michael. I hear what you're saying. I think you'd be surprised how little say he probably had in that.
Yeah, and there's probably a reason why a number 2 overall pick was benched after a year quickly. That doesn't happen. That necessarily wasn't his guy. I'm going to hit Rio here in just a second. I'm going to throw a couple things back at you.
Yeah.
One, Falcons fans are hesitant about a defensive coach. They've gone defense 3 straight times. Mike Smith, Dan Quinn, Raheem Morris, all defensive guys. On the flip side of that, to Nick's point, 2 of the better coaches right now in the NFL both came from San Francisco as defensive coordinators. Mike Vrabel was a defensive coordinator, is a defensive coach. He didn't come as a defensive coordinator. Apologies. Yeah. I'm already anointing Robert Saleh. He'd be the second. Yeah. Mike Vrabel is a defensive background, tough-minded. This team could use some tough-minded discipline. Raheem Morris is a defensive guy, but he's not necessarily. I like having Morris on the staff, just not in charge. It's too comfortable for everybody. I need some people to be uncomfortable. We throw Bill Belichick out there all the time. But DeMeco Ryans came from that same tree in San Francisco, and he is a hell of a coach with the Houston Texans. They've had injury problems, and they have had some staff turnover, and they won 3 out of 4 with Davis Mills as quarterback, and now are looking like one of the better teams in the AFC and have a chance to end up overtaking the Colts and winning the South. So there's pluses and minuses there. I wouldn't be against totally Robert Saleh, but I still want the offensive guy because I know what it was like having Matt Ryan and having to change offensive coordinators every time he got a guy a promotion. So I'm more interested there. And Rio, thanks for coming in with the super, my friend. He says, unpopular opinion, but Raheem and Terry will be back next year if the Falcons find a way to finish 7-10. I set the number at 8 as far as, where at 9-8, they're safe. 7-10, they're gone. 8-9, I'm not sure. Right now, and now, but that's at the beginning of the season. Right now, to go 8-9, you'd have to finish what? 4-1? Oh man, how great would that be? That would have, what was that, 2019, 2020? Is that 2019 where they finished strong after a horrible start and everybody's like, let's run it back. And then they started 0-5 again. It would be a replay of that. If they finish 4-1 and come back, it would be just prolonging the inevitable, and we'd have a midseason firing next year. If they go 7-10, isn't that, what is that, 3-2 to go 7-10?
I think so. Yeah.
3-2, and they're 7-10. I don't.
You got the Rams and the Seahawks left still too. I mean,
yeah, Rams and Seahawks, and then you say, oh, they can beat the Cardinals, the Saints,
Bucks,
and then if they play the Bucks twice. Felt like they've already lost to the Bucks twice, and the Bucks is probably the last game. Maybe they've already clinched and they don't have to play, and they're resting everybody, and you win and eke out 7-10.
No,
it would be the opinion isn't necessarily unpopular. The action, Rio, would be really unpopular if they finish 7-10. And Raheem, Terry Fontenot has more backers. That one would be more split. There's people out there that want to credit him for anything good and absolve him for blame for anything bad. They're out there. So none of it's his fault. All right. Then why do they suck so bad when he's a general manager? That was everybody else's fault. Then what's he doing? What do I need him for? He might get scapegoated. He may be amazing, but 5 years as a general manager, when you've had your best season was 8-9 with 4 7-10s, brother, you're toast.
And the trend is bad.
Like yeah, and you look like you're getting worse, not better.
Yeah. And you left the cupboards bare as well. Like it's harder this offseason. And I granted you have some free agency money, but free agency isn't what it used to be. I mean, these teams have cash, and you see what the market looks like every year. The top guys, not always the best. Now there's diamonds in the rough, but you're not really getting too many, second contract difference makers at premium there was another question here. So yeah, it would be very unpopular. I think Arthur Blank would have. There was a comment in here, and I don't know if I can find it. Apologies. And it might have been on Facebook. Someone saying that, Troy, good morning. Hope you're doing okay. I can't find it again. Apologies. But he's saying, I've been a season ticket holder for 10 years, and I'm waiting to see what happens.
You know, if they run it back, I'm canceling them. If they do this again, I'm canceling them. That's the only way to speak, really. I mean, that's all you got. I get it. It would be a really hard time. They'd have a really hard time selling that back to the Atlanta Falcons fans. Do they care? Again, profits are up, value's up. Everybody in the room is well paid and happy. Well, what's the problem? My business is awesome. Do they know it? I don't know. I mean, yeah, you've got a basically an unsinkable product. You don't even have to win. Guys, y'all need to watch soccer. Promotion and relegation. It's amazing. You finish bottom 3, you're kicked out of the league. It's amazing. They punish owners that don't give a damn. They boot them out of the league. It's so awesome. Not the Billionaire Boys Club. What about Todd Monken? You think he'll get some looks this year?
Maybe. It's just they have not been that good this season. Offensive coordinator-wise, Todd Monken's out there. We've talked about Joe Brady, but, he's a little scary because he's got the Josh Allen, super button to push. Now, granted, their defense is terrible. And you might be able to hire Jackson. What was that?
Lamar Jackson, right?
I was saying Joe Brady as well. I'm just talking about
Brady.
offensive
okay, yeah.
coordinators. Monken's possible. Right now, I think your offensive-minded people, though, are your possible retreads that don't get you too much excitement. I mean, Brian Dable, a retread, but maybe somebody out there. Yeah, Clint Kubiak's got that fresh car smell, but we don't know if he'll work out. You've already had Arthur Smith, of course. And you have Matt Nagy out there as well, and Mike McCarthy. So, I mean, again, McCarthy scares me just because I was very frustrated with the offense the Cowboys had. I thought that there's so many easy buttons, and you didn't push them very often, and made Dak hit S tier throws over and over again. And now look what Dak looks like this season with Shoddy there. I'm I think he was holding that Cowboys offense back, but I don't know. What do I know? So I'm not as big on Mike McCarthy at the end of the day, but I mean, you got Nagy. It's not a good crop, Scott. The one name I will toss out there, which is not going to happen, but money and turnover always makes things interesting. But Dan Lanning out there at Oregon, I think at least I have to toss him out. I don't think he's leaving Oregon. He got a good gig there. He's doing great. I think they have the number 4 recruiting class coming in right now as well. Second in the Big Ten. USC's got a big class coming in, but he's lost both his offensive and defensive coordinators this offseason. Defensive coordinators going down to Cal. Offensive coordinators heading off to Kentucky. Maybe that turnover changes things. I don't know. I mean, he's definitely the most sought after potential coach from college to the NFL. So,
and that's a weird jump for me now. The game is so much different. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not different. It's basically professional football.
It is, but the recruiting's different.
It's just with open free agency, and I can outbid everybody. If they had a real salary cap, and a 55-man roster, then you're talking about the same thing as the NFL.
Yeah.
But so I'm just hesitant there with the way things have changed. But I know college coaches want to jump to other ranks because college has become too much work.
Yeah.
Too much work on this. Michael says, how about Thomas Brown, Tucker grad, University of Georgia grad? I see his name pop up every once in a while. I just don't know what else he's done. What is Thomas Brown doing these days in New England?
He's the pass game coordinator for the Patriots, I believe. So he's not even the offensive coordinator. He's underneath Josh McDaniels out there with Drake May and that Mike Vrabel staff. It's a pretty big jump for him, but it's definitely bring him in for an interview, right? I mean, is it him partially that's unlocking Drake May, or is Drake May just a freaking superstar?
Passing game coordinator there. Would it be nice, Nick, is if you've got an offensive head coach, this is a guy you can poach as your offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And get him in the pipeline too. So, that makes sense also on him. So, on that note, we are just about to get out of here. I'm going to hit Rio again, though. He's got another unpopular opinion.
I love it.
Another unpopular opinion. We win this weekend if Drake London is able to go. It makes a huge difference. I don't know. First game back from an injury like that is usually not great. And if they keep spamming him in traffic, he's not going to last anyway.
Yeah.
He's super physical, but I've likened it to Julio Jones. They use Julio like a running back, and he'd be over there huffing and puffing with the oxygen down in the red zone because he had 6 catches for 60 yards to get down there, running wide receiver screens. So I'm not expecting a lot from Drake this weekend, even if he does play, but he'll definitely help. That's for sure. And without him, they're competitive with the Saints and the Jets without Drake London on offense right now, because Ray is gone and Darnell never really showed up this year. I'm not blaming him. That's just a fact. His numbers show it. I'm not saying that somebody got really crappy. Oh, you didn't mention he broke his collarbone. Remember that? Remember that comment, Nick?
Yeah.
I'm like, he didn't block before he broke his collarbone. But Darnell has not had a good season and can't be counted on as a wide receiver 1. And there is no wide receiver 2. So it's pretty bleak. And I don't expect Drake to come out here and be Drake coming off of 2 weeks off with a knee injury.
Yeah. On
that one note. So Keith, I appreciate the good listen. I can listen to y'all's podcast all day. Let me see here. Sam says, Kirk puts 27 on the Seattle defense, and my flabbers will be gasted. That's a good point also. When's the last time the Falcons scored more than that? I had them scoring 27 last week because I'm an idiot and had the schedule, the score wrong in my headline. But I feel like they've been 24 and under for like 6 weeks in a row.
25 on the Colts, 24 on the Bills, 34 on the Commanders.
27 on the Panthers.
27 on the Panthers. Yep, overtime. But yeah. Yep. So they've had it a few times. But Scott, I do need to fly because I got to go.
We're gonna get out of here, y'all. I'm gonna say goodbye to Curtis, who came in again. Says maybe that's why Ike was mad. The scheme was send wide receivers into traffic collisions. Penix doesn't throw the ball over the middle as much, so that isn't happening. Kirk is throwing some dangerous passes out there because he can't push the boundary as much. So he's coming in inside a lot more often on slants and over the middle, and he's thrown some dangerous passes, including the first game where Mooney got crushed on one and Drake London got bent around in a threesome sandwich that he wasn't all that happy about. Got up, and I think that one cost him. And Keith, thank you. And both of y'all, thanks for being members. Keith says, thanks for everything you do. It means a lot. When things slow down and the regular fans start checking out, having the support for you helps keep us going. So, it might be a little quiet for Falcons fans, but we'll be here. Gut reaction, talk about the game. We'll see. If the Falcons show up, it'll probably be competitive and they'll probably find a way to lose. But this is a good Seattle Seahawks team. And the Falcons aren't good, and they've been playing to the level of the Saints and the Jets, and they were 1-1 against those teams. And it was really close. So thank you to our super chat, to Calder, Curtis, Rusty, Keith coming in a couple times, Rio a few times. Means a lot. We're going to get out of here. We will see. Remember, Garrett will be here tomorrow at 6 o'clock, evening show. And I will be back here for the gut reaction on Sunday. Y'all enjoy the rest of your football week. See y'all later.
Peace.